Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Chapter 7, A Mad Tea Party. There was a table set out under the tree in front of the house, and the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it. A dormouse was sitting between them, fast asleep. The other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head. Very uncomfortable for that dormouse, thought Alice. Only, as it's asleep, I suppose it doesn't mind. The table was a large one, but the three were all crowded together at one corner of it. No room, they cried when they saw Alice coming. There's plenty of room, said Alice indignantly. She sat down in a large armchair at the end of the table. Hare, have some wine, the March Hare said in an encouraging tone. Alice looked around the table. There was nothing on it but tea. I don't see any wine, she remarked. There isn't any, said the March Hare. Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it to me, said Alice angrily. It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited, said the March Hare. I didn't know it was your table, said Alice. It was laid out for many more than 3. Your hair wants cutting, said the Hatter. He had been looking at Alice at some time with great curiosity, and this was his first speech. You should learn not to make personal remarks, Alice said, with some severity. It's very rude. The Hatter opened his eyes wide at hearing this. But all he said was, why is it raving like a writing desk? Come, we shall have some fun now, thought Alice. I'm glad they're asking riddles. I believe I can guess that, she said aloud. Do you mean you think you can find out the answer to it? Said the March Hare. Exactly so, said Alice. Then you should say what you mean, the March Hare went on. I do, Alice hastily replied. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know. Not the same thing at all, said the Hatter. You might as well just say, I see what I eat. It's the same thing as I eat what I see. You might as well say, added the March Hare, that I like what I get is the same as I get what I like. You might as well say, added the Dormouse, who seemed to be talking asleep, that I breathe when I sleep is the same thing as I sleep when I breathe. It's the same thing with you, said the Hatter, and the conversation dropped. The party sat silent for a moment, while Alice thought over all she could remember about ravens and writing desks, which isn't much at all. The Hatter was the first to break the silence. What day of the month is it? He said, turning to Alice. He had taken out a watch out of his pocket and was looking uneasily, shaking it every now and then holding it to his ear. Alice considered a little and said, the 4th. 2 days wrong, sighed the Hatter. I told you the butter wouldn't suit the works, he added, looking angry at the March Hare. It was the best butter. The March Hare meekly replied, yes, but some crumbs have gotten in it as well, as the Hatter grumbled. You could have put it in with a bread knife. The March Hare took the watch and looked at it gloomily, and dipped it into his cup of tea and looked at it again. He could think of nothing better to say than his first remark. It was the best butter, you know. Alice had been looking over her shoulder with some curiosity. What a funny watch, she remarked. It tells the day of the month. It doesn't tell you what o'clock it is. Why should it? Muttered the Hare. What did your watch tell you what year it is? Of course not, Alice replied very readily. But that's because it says the same. Because it stays the same year for such a long time together, all together. Which is just the case as mine, said the Hatter. Alice felt dreadfully puzzled. The Hatter's remark seemed to have no sort of meaning to it, and yet it was certainly English. I don't quite understand you, she said as politely as she could. The Dormouse is asleep again, said the Hatter. He poured a little tea upon his nose. The Dormouse shook his head impatiently. I said without his opening eyes, of course, I was just going to remark myself. Have you guessed the riddle yet? The Hatter said, turning to Alice again. No, I give up, Alice replied. What's the answer? I haven't the slightest idea, said the Hatter. Nor I, said the March Hare. Alice sighed wearily. I think you might have something better to do with the time, she said, than waste it in asking riddles that have no answers. If you knew time as well as I do, said the Hatter, if you want to talk about wasting it, it's him. I don't know what you mean, said Alice. Of course you don't, the Hatter said, tossing his head contemptuously. I dare say you've never spoken to time. Perhaps not, Alice cautiously replied, but I know I have to beat time when I learn music. Ah, that accounts for it, said the Hatter. You understand beating. Now, if you only keep good terms with him, he'd almost do anything you like with the clock. For instance, supposing it was 9 o'clock in the morning, just bad kind-skinned reference, you'd only have to whisper a hint of time, and then round goes the clock in a twinkling, 1:30, time for dinner. I only wish it was, said the March Hare, said itself in a whisper. That would be grand, certainly, said Alice thoughtfully, but then I shouldn't be hungry for it, you know. Not first, perhaps, said the Hatter, but if you keep it at 1:30, as long as you like. Is that why you manage? Alice asked. The Hatter shook his head mournfully. No, sigh, he replied. We quarrelled last March, just before he went mad, you know. He's pointing with his teaspoon at the March Hare. It was at the great concert given by the Queen of Hearts, and I had to sing Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, I wonder where you are at. You know the song, perhaps? I've heard something like it, said Alice. It goes on, you know, the Hatter continued, in this way. Up above the world you fly, like a treaty in the sky, twinkle, twinkle. Here the Dormouse shook itself and began singing its lead, Twinkle, 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 and went on so long they had to pinch it to make it stop. Ow! Well, I hardly finished the first verse, said the Hatter, when the Queen jumped up and pulled out, He's murdering the time! Off with his head! How dreadfully savage! Exclaimed Alice. And ever since that, Hatter went on in a mournful tone, he won't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now. A bright idea came into Alice's head. Is that the reason so many tea things are put out here? She asked. That's it, said the Hatter with a sigh. It's always tea time, and no time to wash the things between whiles. Then you keep moving around, I suppose, said Alice. Exactly so, said the Hatter, as the things get used up. But what happens when it comes to begin again? Alice ventured to ask. Suppose we change the subject, March Hare interrupted, yawning. I'm getting quite tired of this. I vote the young lady tell us the story. I'm afraid I don't know one, said Alice, rather alarmed at the proposal. Then the Dormouse shall, they both cried. Wake up, Dormouse! And they pinched on both sides at once. Oh, wait, what? The Dormouse slowly opened his eyes. I wasn't asleep, he said in a hoarse, feeble tone. I heard every word you fellows were saying. Tell us the story, said the March Hare. Yes, please do, pleaded Alice. And be quick about it, added the Hatter, or you'll be asleep again before it's done. Once upon a time, there was three little sisters. The Dormouse began in a great hurry. Their names were Elise, Lacey, and Tilly, and they lived at the bottom of the well. What did they live on? Said Alice, who always took a great interest in the questions of eating and drinking. They lived on treacle, said the Dormouse after thinking for a minute or two. They couldn't have done that, you know, Alice gently remarked. They'd been quite ill. So they were, very ill, said the Dormouse. Alice tried to fancy herself on what an extraordinary way of living would be like, but it puzzled her too much, so she went on. But why did they live at the bottom of the well? Take some more tea, the March Hare said to Alice very earnestly. I haven't had nothing yet, replied. Alice replied in offended tones. I can't take any more. You can't take any less, said the Hatter. It's very easy to take more than nothing. Nobody asked her opinion, said Alice. Who's making personal remarks now? Said the Hatter triumphantly. Alice didn't want to say this. She helped from some tea and bread and butter, and then to the Dormouse and repeated the question, why do they live at the bottom of the well? The Dormouse again took a minute or two to think about it and said, it was a treacle well. There's no such thing. Alice was became very angry, but the Hatter and the March Hare said, shh. And the Dormouse sulkily remarked, if you can't be civil, you better finish the story for yourself. No, please go on, Alice said very humbly. I won't need to get again. I dare say there may be one. One indeed, said the Dormouse dignantly. However, he consented to go on. So these three little sisters, they were on to draw, you know. What do they draw? Said Alice, quite forgetting her promise. Treacle, said the Dormouse, without considering at all this time. I want to clean up, interrupted there. Let's move one place on. He moved his spoke and the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse place, and Alice rather unwillingly took the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one who got the fancy from the two, and it was a great deal worse off than before, as the March Hare just upset the milk jug to his plate. Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again, so she began very cautiously. But I don't know what you're saying. Where did they draw the treacle from? You draw water out of a water well, said the Hatter, so I think you should draw treacle out of a treacle well. No, stupid. But they were in the well, Alice said to the Dormouse, not choosing to notice last month. Of course they were, said the Mouse. Well in. Oh, this answer so confused poor Alice that she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it. They were longing to draw, the old mouse, yawning and rubbing his eyes, but he was getting very sleepy again. And they were drawing all manner of things, everything that begins with an M. Why with an M? Said Alice. Why not? Said the Martyr. Alice was frightened. The Dormouse had closed its eyes for some time, was going off into a doze, but then was being pinched by the Hatter. Ah! I woke up with a little shriek and went on. That things began with M's, such as mousetraps and the moon and the memory, muchness. You know, things that are much of a muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as drawing of muchness? Really, now you ask me, said Alice, very confused. I don't think, then you shouldn't talk, said the Hatter. This piece of rudeness was more than Alice could take. She got up in great disgust and walked off. The Dormouse fell asleep instantly. And neither of the others took the least little notice of her going, though she did look back once or twice, half hoping they'd call after her. Last time she saw them, they were trying to put the Dormouse into a teapot. Very hard thing to do. At any rate, I'll never go there again, said Alice as she picked her way through the woods. This is the most stupidest tea party I ever at in my life. As she said it, there's noticed one of the trees had a door leading right into it. That's very curious, she thought. Better than it's curious today. I might as well go in at once. And so she went. This is how she got into trouble in the first place. Seriously. Oh, dear God. Once more she found herself in a long hall and close to the glass table. No, I managed better this time, she said to herself, and began by taking the little golden key and unlocking the door that led to the garden. Then she went to work nibbling at the mushroom she had kept a piece in her pocket, until she was about a foot high. Then she walked down the passage, and then at last she found herself in the beautiful garden among the bright flowers and the cool fountains.